Good evening and welcome. Did a state-sponsored actor snoop on the telephones of key opposition figures? The government says no. The opposition insists yes. An investigation has been ordered. What exactly do we know at this moment? How is Apple certain that this is a state-sponsored actor? And who could this state-sponsored actor be? The Indian government or some other government? Charges are flying thick and fast. This is the biggest political story tonight, and it's my top focus on the NewsTrack.
Apple alerts trigger big quake. Opposition alleges surveillance. Centre slams compulsive critics. Asks opposition netas to file FIR. Snoopgate Dangle 2.0. That is the big focus on NewsTrack.
We have a power-packed show lined up tonight. We'll have Amit Malviya, the IT chief czar of the Bharatiya Janata Party, squaring off against Priyanka Chaturvedi of the Uddhav Shiv Sena. Remember, Priyanka Chaturvedi is allegedly one of those who says her phone was being snooped at. She received an email from Apple. Amit Malviya, of course, says this is completely bogus and that there is no evidence to prove that this was an instrument of the Indian state. So that's coming up in just a moment. Is the biggest showdown on prime time tonight. Here's a look at the headlines I'm tracking this evening. Kerala government files FIR against Rajiv Chandrasekhar for promoting religious hatred. The union minister had commented on the IED blast, a Hamas leader's speech at the event in the state. BJP calls the case false. Big political dangle over ED summons to Arvind Kejriwal. AAP says the Delhi CM will be arrested next. BJP says Kejriwal is the kingpin of the Liquorgate scam. Prime Minister pays tribute to India's freedom fighters and martyrs on Sardar Patel's birth anniversary. Says youth will play a big role in the development of the nation. Chandrababu Naidu walks out of jail after 53 days. He's out on bail for 4 weeks. TDP chief thanks his supporters. Israel expands Gaza ground assault on day 4. Firing escalates at the border. Israeli soldier held hostage by Hamas rescue. This is Snoopgate Dangal 2.0. This morning, several opposition netas claimed they had received an email alert from Apple about alleged state-sponsored attacks. From Rahul Gandhi to Mahua Mitro, Priyanka Chaturvedi to Asuddin Owaisi, they claimed a hacking attempt engineered by the Indian government. The Modi government, though, hit back, denying the charge strongly, saying a similar alert had gone out in 150 countries.
Snoopgate 2.0 hits Indian politics. Rahul Gandhi, Shashi Tharoor, Mahua Moitra, Priyanka Chaturvedi, Akhilesh Yadav, Asaduddin Owaisi and many other opposition leaders on Tuesday alleged that they may have become targets of hacking by government agency. The opposition leaders shared screenshots of mails and text messages from Apple, warning them against state-sponsored attackers trying to remotely compromise their iPhones. Shiv Sena MP Priyanka Chaturvedi wrote letters to Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Home Minister Amit Shah demanding an investigation.
We would need to understand who's at the bottom of this. Like I said, 2 decades of using Apple, I've never received a message which is so serious. And coming from them, I think we should be alert to what is happening, whether it's state-sponsored from the government or wherever they think it is happening.
Congress MP Rahul Gandhi claimed that the opposition is being hounded by the Narendra Modi government for speaking out on Adani Group.
जैसे ही हम अदानी जी को टच करते हैं, इंटेलिजेंस एजेंसीज, स्नूपिंग, सीबीआई, मैं पहले सोचता था नंबर 1 प्राइम मिनिस्टर, नंबर 2 अदानी, नंबर 3 अमित शाह। एक्चुअली ये गलत है। नंबर 1 अदानी, नंबर 2 प्राइम मिनिस्टर, नंबर 3 अमित शाह। अभी हिंदुस्तान की पॉलिटिक्स हमें समझ आ गई है और इसीलिए सारा का सारा हो रहा है डिस्ट्रैक्शन पॉलिटिक्स।
The Modi government dismissed allegations of snooping on opposition. IT Minister Ashwini Vaishnaw stated that an investigation is ordered, but pointed out that similar notifications were received by Apple users in 150 countries.
There are many compulsive critics in our country. Their only and only job is to criticize the government as and when they wake up, as and when they find an opportunity. We have already ordered an investigation and we request each and every person who has received the advisory to please cooperate with the investigation and make sure that we go to the depth of the matter.
It's complete nonsense that the opposition leaders are trying to propagate. It will be very interesting to get to the root of the matter, and has asked Apple to join the investigation. और दूध का दूध पानी का पानी हो जाएगा.
Apple has issued a statement. The iPhone maker clarified that it does not attribute the threat notification to any specific state-sponsored attacker. The company added that the notification alert could also be a false alarm and they are unable to provide information on what causes such alerts to be sent out, as this might help the attackers evade detection in future. The one question being raised is why only opposition leaders and critics got hacking alerts. Bureau Report, India Today.
Was Big Brother trying to snoop on India's opposition leaders? Why did Apple trigger this email alert? Why did that email go out largely only to opposition figures? And is there any evidence to prove that this was indeed done by an instrument of the Indian state? Joining us on the NewsTrack, I want to introduce our guests, starting with Amit Malviya, head of the IT cell of the Bharatiya Janata Party. Squaring off against him, Priyanka Chaturvedi of the Uddhav Balasaheb Thackeray Sena. Later in the show, I'll also have Jitin Jain, leading cyber expert, Apar Gupta, advocate, founding director, internetfreedom.com, Kanish Gaur, who's the founder of the India Future Foundation, and Adil Singh Boparai of the Congress. I want to spend a few minutes at the beginning with Amit Malviya and Priyanka Chaturvedi. I want to go across to Amit Malviya first. Mr. Malviya, multiple leaders of India's opposition claim to have received this email from Apple saying that an instrument of the Indian state, state-sponsored attackers may be targeting your iPhones. Now, this email has been received largely only by those who in some form or the other are involved with India's opposition, not by government representatives. From what you've been able to gather from within the government, what do you have to say in response to the charge that there is a perception amongst the likes of Priyanka Chaturvedi about the state sponsoring on opposition leaders? Mr. Malviya.
Let me fact check you to begin with, Rahul. None less than Union Minister Piyush Goyal has also received a similar notification on the mail ID which is linked to his Apple account.
No, so we interviewed Piyush Ji. Piyush Ji said that somebody he knew got that email. Just 1 second, Amit. We interviewed Piyush Ji this evening. He said somebody he knew who was a politician received that email. He didn't say it was about him. We just interviewed him a short while ago, but please go on.
I checked with his office and also spoke to him. It was perhaps post your interview that his mail ID was checked and there was a notification in there as well.
Okay.
If that helps. Now, having said that, why is it that the opposition in India routinely raises issues of surveillance, of snooping, and does not come to substantiate their allegation? We've seen this happen with Pegasus. We've seen later with a certain news portal writing about tech fog, speaking about undue influence that me as an individual had on meta companies including Instagram, for which I filed a criminal case against them, and now you have this alarm being set off because of notification that has come from Apple to users in 150 countries. Apple has put out a statement and they have very categorically said that this is not specific to a particular country or agency. They've also gone on to say that they don't know the reason for this alert. It could be for various reasons, including user behavior. It could also be to do with their own algorithms and so on and so forth. The government of India, through the concerned ministry, and the minister have spoken. Ashwini Vaishnaw has gone on record to say that the government of India will investigate this and also ask Apple to be part of that investigation so that details can be put forth. And if there is a concern, because let's not forget, Apple charges astronomical rates for their mobile phones and claim that it is absolutely secure. So if there is any kind of indulgence here, then Apple has to be made accountable. Now, having said all of this, I want to make a very important point on why the opposition routinely rakes up these issues, Rahul. It is an attempt to weaken people's faith in India's institutions and India's democracy, and it is being done at the behest of foreign powers. We know very well that George Soros, the billionaire who fancies himself as a regime change agent, has gone on record to say that he would like to see this government out. And unfortunately, India's opposition, including its leading face Rahul Gandhi, is a convenient prop in his hand. And that is why we saw Rahul Gandhi personally champion the Pegasus issue. He raised it on several platforms. He held press conferences and spoke about it in the parliament. But when it came to surrendering his phone for investigation, he backed out. So this is nothing but an attempt by forces inimical to India's interest, including a vast section of our opposition, which is in concert with foreign agencies trying to undermine India's democracy.
So Priyanka Chaturvedi, let's take it one by one.
But there is no attempt to snoop.
The government says we've ordered a probe. They're denying this charge. Apple's email doesn't say the Indian government did it. They talk about state-sponsored attackers. This could literally be anybody. Hypothetically, this could be China, this could be Pakistan, this could literally be anybody. Secondly, they also talk about the possibility of false alarms. While this is possible, it's a false alarm. Please take this warning seriously. Therefore, would it not be better to wait for the result of the investigation rather than to jump to the conclusion that the government is guilty without being able to provide evidence to back it? Priyanka Chaturvedi.
So, firstly, a couple of fact checks with the IT head of BJP, Amit Malviya ji. Fact check one, this email, this message that we've got hasn't come from George Soros. Neither has the message come from The Wire, which did a story on tech fog. Neither has it come through Financial Times, etc., who spoke about Pegasus, and it was a joint investigative story. And it came for journalists from various countries, various geographies. Every other country acted upon it except for India. This has come from Apple, who are the manufacturers of the phones that we use. And it has said, and the statement was, it's a state-sponsored attempt to hack your Apple ID. Now, as a citizen of this country, forget an opposition voice of this country. As a citizen of this country, if I receive this message, my first instinct would be to check if it is authentic, which I checked, and that's when I put it out late last night, close to midnight. And then in the morning, I saw that whole lot of members of parliament have received it. Now, fact check 2, with regards to the statement coming from Apple. Let me tell you, the statement from Apple is just a cut-paste job which has been given to various journalists, which is a cut-paste job from their statement from 22nd August 2023. And all it says is that they cannot obviously specify whether it's state, government-sponsored, etc. They have said that the hacking is so professional and it's so advanced that it can only come from a source which is heavily funded and has the backing of a state. Now, fact check 3. Let's say if it's not my government. Let's say it's China, like you mentioned. So shouldn't that be a bigger cause of worry that China is intruding into our phones and China wants a backup of what opposition MPs are doing in India but does not care about what the government, the decision-making ministers are doing in this country? Isn't that a bit ridiculous? Now let me go to the other fact check. He said, oh, it has gone to 150, it has gone to individuals from 150 countries. Let me fact check on that too. Since this notification was introduced in 2021, what Apple has said is that we have sent it to individuals, this threat notification warning to individuals from 150 countries from 2021 to 2023. So it isn't like it went yesterday to 150 nations, to individuals from 150 nations. Over the years, it has gone to so many people. It has gone to individuals. They haven't even specified the number of individuals. Of 150 nations, because that's where Apple's reach is in terms of iPhone users.
No, but
so these are a few
on the Apple website, Priyanka ji, it also says detecting such attacks relies on threat intelligence signals that are imperfect and incomplete. It is possible that some Apple threat notifications may be false alarms, or that some attacks are not detected. The point I'm making is, Apple itself is building in so many caveats that this may or may not be true. And therefore, to assume that this is true, is that not a leap of faith? It could be true. It may also possibly not be true. As Mr. Malviya said, when Rahul Gandhi was asked to submit his phone for investigation in the Pegasus case, he actually in the end didn't do so. We would have found out if it were true if he did, but he didn't.
No, a couple of things. Let me again correct you on that. So you say you have to wait for evidence. Who will gather the evidence? It would be the government of the day, right? The government has outright rejected it. That it is the opposition trying to undermine the government and undermine democracy. I don't know what else Mr. Amit Malviya was accusing us of. Now, secondly, submitting a phone. I have mentioned this very clearly in my letter. If the state is sponsoring the attack, how can I expect an investigation which is free and fair? Why will I go submit my phone to those very agencies who probably have gone rogue? Maybe the government of India doesn't know of it, and are snooping on my phone and getting my data.
So hold that thought. Let me get Amit Malviya to respond to what you're saying, Mr. Malviya.
To members of the opposition.
Okay, Priyanka ji's point is, Mr. Malviya, that if the government has already begun with the very emphatic assertion that this is not done by the government, then how can we trust your probe? Will the probe not come to the conclusion which the government has already started with on day one? That it's basically a self-fulfilling prophecy. You will do all this probe and say the government did nothing. Respond to that, Mr. Malviya.
This isn't a leap of faith, as you put it, but it's a leap of desperation for the Congress, where they want to lap up anything and everything that they believe could help their purpose or their agenda. If for a minute it was the government of India behind it, as the opposition is alleging, why has the government of India said that we will investigate it? There has been a very strong statement put out by the Minister of Information and Technology saying that we will investigate this matter and we will get Apple to cooperate and ensure that they give us a more convincing answer and not a vague one. That is the government of India's position. Now, if the opposition believes that this government is compromised and that it already has made up its mind, or as Priyanka said, that there is a certain agency in the government that has gone rogue, if that is the kind of mistrust that you have on government of India and its agencies, then please tell me, why are you even interested in being part of this government or getting into the treasury benches? Aren't you happier sitting in the opposition because you don't trust the government or any of its arms? Now,
don't trust you in government. They'd be very happy being in government, but that's a different matter. That's a debate for another day. But Mr. Malviya, as far as circumstantial evidence is concerned, just give me a second. Let's look at who are the dramatis persona who claim to have received this email. Priyanka, Mahua Mitro, Raghav Chadda, Shashi Tharoor, Asuddin Owaisi, Sitaram Yechury, Pawan Khera, Akhilesh Yadav, Siddharth Varadarajan, Sriram Kesri, Kari, Samir Saran, KC Venugopal, Supriya Sule, Revant Reddy, KT Ramarao. Now, apart from Samir Saran, I don't see anybody else in that list who's pro-government or even neutral, right? These are largely anti-government people. So, doesn't it seem like a bit of a coincidence, more than a bit of a coincidence, that only anti-government people who receive this email from Apple? Mr. Malviya?
I started off on your program saying that Piyush Goyal has himself got a notification on his mail ID. Now, if you think that's not good enough, or if you think he is likely to defect to the Congress or to the opposition, I'm not quite sure if there's anything more I can say to convince you. Sriram Kari is the journalist. I think he's the editor of Deccan in Hyderabad. So that's right. So I'm clearly, you're not branding him as a politician, and so is the chief of ORF, Samir Saran. Now, these are not people who are politicians or who are in the opposition ranks, and I'm sure that there are several other people who've got this notification, except that they do not have the same currency with media as some of these opposition leaders do. I mean, we are a country of 140 crore people. A lot of them use Apple phones, and I'm sure many have got this notification, but not all of them perhaps make it to the media or invoke media interest, and that is why this debate has become about the opposition versus the government, which is unfortunate, because this should be about Apple and its users.
So there are several people, Priyanka, on that list. The president of the Observer Research Foundation, Samir Saran, who I know well, who's hardly anti-government from any stretch of imagination. The Deccan Chronicle editor is on this list as well. He's a journalist. You've got people there who aren't anti-government, who've also received, and while Piyush in the interview we didn't say anything about receiving an email, we've seen Rajiv Chandrasekhar, the MOS IT, say that Piyush Goyal's office did receive this email. So therefore there are all kinds of characters who've received this email, not just anti-government people.
No, if you are juxtaposing three people vis-a-vis over 15 odd people from the opposition, then it's fair enough for your thought process to continue that way and keep joining the dots, which don't exist. However, there's a very clear pattern, whether it is with Pegasus, where we still don't know what the investigation report finally showed, and where we stand as far as Pegasus is concerned. And like I said, various other geographies investigated it and took action. However, India failed to do that, and India failed to blame, international agencies, etc., and called it motivated. Now, let me tell you, he keeps saying that that statement is vague coming from Apple, and we'll ask them to keep it more clearer. It clearly says in their statement, we are unable to provide information about what causes us to issue threat notifications, as that may help state-sponsored attackers adapt their behavior to evade detection in the future. So it is a very clear-cut, statement from Apple that yes, we've sent this alert. We believe these are really powerful people who are trying to hack into Apple IDs to get sensitive information. Considering it's happening to members of the opposition, I think it should be time for people to actually ask tough questions of the government and what are they doing. However, for him to say, "Oh, you don't have faith in the government," I'm sorry. If Mr. Piyush Goyal has faith in his government, he should hand over his phone and let us know what comes out of the investigation.
Okay, I want to go across to Adil Singh Boparai of the Congress. He's listening in as well. And then I have a panel of technical experts who I want to go to. Adil Singh Boparai, the point that Amit Malviya made is Rahul Gandhi has been down this road, levelling this charge in the Pegasus case. And when the committee asked him to submit his phone for investigation so it could be examined forensically, he refused. So Amit Malviya making the point that this is just going to be the same thing when they're asked for the phone. If the opposition people don't give the phone, then how is the government or any investigative agency ever supposed to prove this or probe this? Adil Singh Boparai.
Mr. Kanwal, this is worse than India. This is worse than the Watergate scandal of the US. Make no mistake about this.
How? How so?
How so? This is political espionage. What more proof do you want? You have opposition leaders being attacked with military-grade spyware. What more evidence do you want? And so much of a coincidence that you have 15 leaders or 15 opposition leaders who speak vociferously against the government, or more particularly against the political executive of the day. The Congress party, Mr. Kanwal, firmly believes that democracy is dead in this country. You have these ornamental shells which put up a pretense of a democracy, but the vitals have been eaten up. They've been hollowed out. The watchdogs and the accountability seekers have just surrendered. We are very firm on this view, notwithstanding what others may think. The problem today is that this is a repeat of what happened with the Pegasus scandal. I want to remind the BJP IT chief that it was the Supreme Court of India which had said that the government of the day did not cooperate with the committee when it came to the Pegasus scandal. So what more stonewalling, what more evidence of stonewalling do you want from this government? And coming to your question, how do you expect somebody to be a judge in his own cause? And I find this completely ludicrous.
No, but why did Rahul Gandhi not give the phone for examination? If he levelled this charge, if indeed something had been attempted to be planted by the Pegasus crew, it could have been examined. Rahul Gandhi ultimately never gave the phone.
Well, Mr. Kanwal, the government's investigation reports are not worth the paper on which they're written.
No, so who will probe this then? Okay, so what are you asking for?
The difficulty today is that you have a government which has fascist tendency. And when this government goes out of power, there will be an independent probe. And those responsible for such acts of omission and commission will be brought to justice. This will happen.
If Apple were to come out with a statement, then you'll say companies like Facebook, like Meta, Apple, they are beholden to the government because India is a big market, India is very important for them. That's the other charge you level. You're saying that the investigative agency won't do its job properly. So what specifically are you then asking for?
Please understand this. Apple is not under the opposition control here. Apple is an independent MNC. It is Apple which is saying that there is state-sponsored attacks. And do you expect the North Koreans or the Japanese to attack opposition leaders? Please, let's not give that spiel. That's ludicrous. Who would be interested in hacking into the phones of opposition leaders in this country? Obviously, the dispensation
No, on the China-Pakistan theory, just before I go across to our tech experts, let me get one word in from Amit Malviya. On the China-Pakistan state-sponsored espionage theory, wouldn't they want to know what is happening in the government, Mr. Malviya? Rather than trying to snoop on opposition, isn't it more effective for them if they are going to make this effort to snoop on members of the government rather than snooping on the opposition? What will Beijing find out? Even if they get into Priyanka's phone, how does it help Xi Jinping's case? It's much better to get into somebody in government, into their phone.
Rahul, I quickly want to make 3 points. Loud words coming in from the Congress spokesperson. I want to remind your viewers that P. Chidambaram bugged late Pranab Mukherjee's office when they were in office. So let them not pontificate to us on snooping and other issues, because their own track record is fairly checkered and a dark one. Having said that, let me extend the conspiracy theory of the state or the executive trying to snoop on opposition. Where does it imply that only the federal government can snoop? It is quite likely maybe the Congress-run Rajasthan government is snooping on Akhilesh Yadav after they had a spat in Madhya Pradesh regarding seat sharing. And for all you know, Chhattisgarh government might be, Bhupesh Baghel might be snooping on Rahul Gandhi after he disowned him at a public rally saying T.S. Singh Deo is the Chief Minister of Chhattisgarh. So if you want to get into speculative regime, you want to get into imaginary arguments, then you can extend it to any point.
Okay.
It really doesn't matter. But coming to your point on the China-Pakistan axis and their inclination to snoop on India's ruling establishment, I want to, sort of make it a larger argument here. Look, India is weaning away business from a lot of companies. A lot of companies from China, for instance, are moving into India, Foxconn being one, and they're manufacturing the Apple product. So if you want to really speculate and, look at things beyond what is obvious, why can't you think that it could be a country trying to undermine India's integrity as it loses business to the country?
Okay.
There are geopolitical forces at play, and maybe India's opposition is a willing, useful prop in the hands of such people, and that is why they've got these notifications and they're making so much noise and sound about it. Now, so, if you want to get into the ludicrous argument, you can extend it to any point, but if you want to be substantive, then the government of India has very clearly said that we are going to take this to the next level of investigation, get Apple to cooperate, and it's not just opposition leaders who got that message. Several people in the government have also got it, and if you did not cooperate when Pegasus was being investigated and then made allegations like tech fog and Meta being controlled and Insta being controlled and now this, clearly India's opposition has no credibility to make any more statements like this.
So stay with me. I wanted to keep the politics separate from the tech. So we dealt with the politicians first. I'll come back to them later, and I want to spend some time with the three top tech experts we have. So as I said, Apar Gupta is an advocate, founding director of Internet Freedom. Jitin Jain is one of our leading cybersecurity experts. Kanish Gaur is the founder of the India Future Foundation. So I want to spend some time now focusing on the tech. I'll start by asking Jitin Jain about this email, about the response from Apple, and the suggestion that this alert came to the likes of Priyanka Chaturvedi because a state-sponsored attacker may be targeting her phone. Now, beyond what I know, what's your tech brain telling you? Jitin. You're on mute, Jitin. Jitin, you're on mute.
Yeah. So Rahul, if you wanted to check if the alert itself is authentic or not, I have seen several screenshots shared by the opposition MPs, and the alert is authentic. And so far as if you want to check the quality and seriousness of the alert, see, understand how companies like Microsoft, Google, and Apple are operating these days. All of these companies have got very dedicated, highly skilled threat intelligence teams, and they keep searching for threats on their platform. They keep studying them, and if they figure out that a particular group or a actor has been operating with a blessing of state or a patronage.
Now, how does it know it's a state-sponsored attacker? It could be a corporate attacker, it could be anybody. How do you know it's a state-sponsored attacker?
Give me 3 minutes. So if they figured out there is an involvement of state in a particular group and they have been using sophisticated malware to breach their platforms, they start mapping the victims of that particular group, and at some point of time they issue alerts. It is done by Google also, Microsoft also, Apple also. So if they have issued the alert, in 95% of the cases, the alert is genuine. Now, in cyber threat intelligence, you never have a 0 and 1 very absolutely binary situation where you can say, oh, I have this evidence and this is the person who has done this. There are a lot of artifacts which have to be analyzed. There are a lot of dots which have to be connected. And then you look at indicators of compromise, which IP address was used, which country was that IP address allocated to? Was it like working in a government institution or a building? Whether a particular group which was using the IP address has a history of working with a military intelligence agency or a government. So based on several factors, you say with a high degree of confidence that the actor which was or attacker which was trying to target you may have been state-sponsored or patronized by state. So
no, but surely even if this is state-sponsored, they won't be sitting, Jitin, in a government building and sending this email.
I'm coming to that, Rahul. So there is always a chance of 5% of error. There is always an accuracy of say 90 to 92%. Now coming to the facts of it, I think instead of we speculating whether it is Indian state or a particular state government or a foreign state or a state within a foreign state, I think Apple, which charges almost 1 lakh rupees every 2 years, we buy an iPhone or a laptop, which we pay astronomical almost 1 or 2 lakh rupees every year on Apple devices, Apple storage and everything. I think for this multi-billion-dollar company, which is running their business solely on the claims of highly secure devices and privacy, it would have been more appropriate for them to issue some indicators of compromise, whether this IP address was belonging to India, China or Pakistan. What are the IP addresses?
No, so has Priyanka's phone been compromised already? No, one second. If you know, one second. Has Priyanka Chaturvedi or anybody else on that list, has their phone been compromised already, or was this an attempt at compromise? What does, if you decode this technically, what does it mean?
Rahul, this is what I'm saying. They are not revealing that. They are saying that you have been attacked, whether you were successfully compromised or not. They are not saying which country. They are not revealing. When were you attacked? Today, yesterday, last month, last year, that also is not revealed. So I think they have just set a political slugfest. They have orchestrated a political slugfest. There is no evidence at play. I think it will be more appropriate for them to share at least some primitive details with the victims. That how do they secure their phones?
So what should someone like a Priyanka Chaturvedi be doing now? So should she clean her phone out? What should she be doing? What's your, as a tech expert, Jitin charges a lot of money. I'm doing this for you for free.
Can I answer that?
One second. Let Jitin charges a lot of money for such advice, but since we're on TV, I can ask him for free. What's your advice to someone like Priyanka and to our viewers who'd be curious?
No, it'll be very easy for anyone to say that please go to a government agency, but right now it appears that there has been a complete erosion of trust. There's an absolute trust deficit. So I think people will not go to government, and government on its part is defending, which they have not been even involved in. So I think the best situation right now for these people to reach private help. Get their device.
Jitin Jain doing a business pitch. He says, "Come to me, I'll help you." I'm just joking.
No,
I leave that on the side. I'm just being flippant. I didn't mean that. I'm just joking.
It is very, very important for any victim. See, if you go to a hospital, a big hospital, you pay 5 lakh rupees, and the doctors comes and say, "Look, Rahul, you are very sick. Get treated." But I will not tell you what sickness you have, what problem you have, whether you have headache, migraine, or a heart disease. I will not tell you. So I think it is very, very important that Apple tells Government of India or certain or these at least these victims that what are the indicators of compromise? How do you secure yourself?
I think you're making important points.
I think every phone should be analyzed for traffic monitoring, where all connections are being made from these particular devices. If there is any suspicious connection to any known indicators of compromise or any hostile country, or even to a government of India. I mean, let's look at facts and then blame each other. Because if you keep fighting with each other, suppose if there's a third actor at play, suppose if there's a private party at play, suppose if there's a foreign actor at play, I think we are missing the bus. Nothing happened in Pegasus probe, and I believe that in this absence of trust, nothing will come out of this.
Okay.
Except
Apar Gupta, at the Internet Freedom Foundation, I saw you'd written that you're very concerned about what's been seen. What evidence, beyond what a layman can read from the statement, what have you been able to gather which is alarming to you, Apar Gupta?
So one of the first few things I'd like to clear up are certain factual inaccuracies and framing mistakes. The first thing is, even when the Pegasus revelations, the Pegasus project revelations were made, in the list of targets, there were a number of people who were actually cabinet ministers. This included Ashwani Vaishnaw, Prahlad Patel, VHP leaders, Praveen Togadia, Smriti Irani's former OSD. So we have to view it from the perspective that if a state actor, if an intelligence agency is procuring this software, it will not only be interested in getting to know members of the opposition, but will also like to keep its own house in order. And that is a possibility. I'd like to just point it out on the basis of a previous instance, which is the revelation of the Pegasus. The second is directly addressing the presser which has been issued today by Mr. Ashwani Vaishnaw. He says that we are doing a thorough inquiry. This country has a Commissions of Inquiry Act 1952. Have they set up a inquiry commission? If yes, where is the notification? What are the terms of reference? I think we are a country which is operating under a democratic framework, under a constitution and a rule of law. If this is indeed happening, then of course there will be some degree of confidence members of the opposition will have, and they can submit their phones rather than to a bureaucrat. The third point I want to make here is that the government has not clearly denied till date it used the Pegasus software on affidavit to the Supreme Court of India. It made repeated reference to powers under the Telegraph Act. And this absence of denial was also there on the floor of Parliament by Minister Vaishnaw. Even today's presser does not say that India does not procure spyware technologies. What is the process? What are the safeguards? How is it used for national security? These are important framing points for us to think about why there needs to be independent, transparent investigation, probably court monitored into this entire affair.
No, but Pegasus was court monitored. I mean, there was a whole court case around that.
It was a court monitored committee which was which submitted a report in sealed cover. That report has not yet been made public. Rahul, the argument by the petitioners was accepted that we fear submitting our phones to the government, please set up a committee, and actually the court did set up a committee. And this by itself shows there's some degree of inference, there's some validity to the fear that we are being targeted by the government and you're asking us as victims to turn over our smartphones to them.
Okay, Kanish Gaur, at the India Future Foundation, the alert refers to state-sponsored attackers, and given the cast and crew on that list, Beijing and Islamabad are more likely to be interested in knowing what Amit Malviya is doing than interested in knowing what Priyanka Chaturvedi is doing. What do you as a tech brain think of what we've seen so far?
Thank you, Rahul. See, state-sponsored is a term. They use specifically, we see these are called as advanced persistent threats. That does not necessarily
Advanced what? Sorry, I missed you. What did you say?
Advanced persistent threats, APTs.
Okay.
Now, it means is that for having that level of machinery, they would require significant amount of capital and infrastructure, which could only come from the help of government. Either government is funding it directly.
No, why? It can be some big corporate. It can be a multi-billion-dollar corporate as well. Why does it need to just be the government? They got more money.
No, but the term has been used. Now, there could always be a third party, a contractor. We have heard about companies like NSO Group who do it for living. So directly attributing it to the government and saying that government of India has done this, I don't think so. That's right now. We should do a proper investigation. Priyanka Chaturvedi could call out independent investigation. That could be there.
No, but who does this investigative? Who does an independent investigation?
there could be another Supreme Court committee which could be set up and they could carry out an investigation. The second part is we don't have strong laws to go back and ask Apple all of these details. The attribution of such cyber attacks, you cannot go and ask Apple, please come and attribute. So you need to make the laws more stronger. So companies like Apple are held more liable and accountable in this country, which is missing. If the US government goes and asks Apple this information, Apple will be pressurized.
No,
But
so
the
Jiten
Indian
Jain, will
government asks-
Apple, if and when the IT ministry and the government asks Apple, are they obliged to comply?
No. Under the IT Act, IT rules, in the breach notification, any company operating in India, if they had suffered a breach, they are duty bound to inform Indian CERT. Now, obviously, I don't expect Apple to give them the entire details of how a particular individual was compromised, but at a broad level, they are supposed to declare the extent of compromise, breach, and the indicators of compromise with Indian CERT. But Rahul, let's be very, very honest.
No, Jiten, let me cut you there. Apple has a policy. Apple has a policy that they never attribute. They have clearly called out that they will never attribute a state actor.
No, I understand. That's what I'm saying. Apart, they need not name a country, but at least they can give an indicator of compromise so that people can be secure. So the second point I want to make, which apart
has issued this notice to Apple under which provision of law?
No, the CERT can ask. Indian CERT can issue because they are supposed to report the breach. But the point I want to join, as Apar was pointing out,
notices have been issued by the
government of India.
Previous notices have been issued by the same ministry to Meta when there was the Cambridge Analytica scandal. Nothing came out of it. And there have been notices which have been issued repeatedly. There are actually questionable legal powers. The ministry does not have these legal powers.
So, apart, there's a 2 second of delay. So I think we are just overrunning each other. So I'll just start with 2 second of delay. See, the point is, even companies like Twitter, Facebook, Meta, they have never cooperated with the government. And that is why these new IT rules of significant social media intermediaries were brought in, that you should have 3 officers in India. You should comply with the government directives and guidelines, cooperate in investigations. So I think this is a work in progress. But as far as the point of whether government of India procures spywares or not, whether Pegasus is procured or not, let me tell you, no government in the world.
Why has the cabinet secretary? Why has the cabinet secretariat, which houses the National Security Council,
which reports, any and every government in the world, any and every government in the world will buy the
Okay, usually it's netas who are talking over each other. Now we've got tech experts talking over each other. The netas were quite civil during the discussion. Just 1 second, because everybody speaks at the same time, then nobody can understand what's happening. I want to go across to Priyanka Chaturvedi, who had a question for Jiten when he was speaking. Now the question clearly, okay, so even Adil Singh Boparai had his hand up, so he wants to come in and respond to what we are hearing from the tech experts. Adil.
Mr. Kanwal, let's not miss the woods for the trees here. This is hacking. Hacking is a criminal offense in this country.
No, but Apple hasn't said whether there was an attempted hacking or has hacking happened.
Please understand, an attempt to commit an offense is also an offense under the IPC. If there is an attempt to commit hacking, that is also an offense, which warrants an investigation. But the difficulty today with the BJP is that they're brazen to the hilt. That's the difficulty. They are brazen to the hilt, and they are the ones who are undertaking this repeatedly. I put this question to your viewers, directly to your viewers and to the citizens of this country. Who is likely to benefit by deriving information from opposition leaders? Who is likely to benefit politically and otherwise by gaining an information edge over their political adversary? The answer is simple. It is simple and very logical that the ruling political compensation.
Now, Priyanka Chaturvedi, when Jiten was speaking, you were trying to get a word in. Okay, 30 seconds. Okay.
Mr. Kanwal, Mr. Malviya's proclamation that there will be a fair investigation is bogus. And I'll tell you why. In the Pegasus scandal, none other than the apex court of this country said that the government is stonewalling an inquiry. So therefore, do not expect anything better. This is likely to get worse in the election. But let me assure something to Mr. Malviya. When we come to power, the chickens will come home to roost.
So you're counting chickens at this moment which haven't roosted, but we'll leave that for another day. That's not the point over here. But just on this point,
Well,
Priyanka
that's
ji.
the point. A fair investigation is the point.
Okay, fair enough.
Justice is the point.
Okay, well, I don't want to get derailed by who will win the next election. That's not the point here. Priyanka Chaturvedi, between the time you got this email from Apple and now, what have you done? How do you, has your phone been hacked? Do you know what precautions are you taking? How are you approaching this? Just more on an individual level.
So, on a lighter note, I would just say I'm greeting Amit Shah ji with every call I'm taking, so that he can also have, he can also see or hear whatever I'm saying, whether
Not
I'm fighting
Mr.
with my
Malviya.
husband or I'm asking my children to go to college and be home on time. And just 30 seconds. So I have made no changes to my phone. And if entertainment and snooping is what they're seeking, they will get it from me. But in 2024, I can assure you of one thing. Smartphones will be safe again. MTNL and BSNL
No, but on a more serious note, this is a very serious issue. You should know whether your phone has been hacked or not. I mean, there's several experts, some of them are on the show, who can help you determine whether it's an attempted hacking or a hacking. That's a very serious concern. You should be working on it, Priyanka. Seriously.
No, absolutely. But I refuse to live under the fear of being, snooped upon. And this is a fight I'm fighting committed to. I was born
She's
in a free,
basically saying, Amit bhai,
constitutionally
that even if I get my phone
nation,
cleaned, they'll
and
find
I want
another
to
way of
return
getting back
to
in.
that.
So what's the point? She's saying even if I get it cleaned, they'll again find a way of coming back in. So now, Mr. Malviya and his team may have some significant expertise in helping determine whether that phone is clean. I don't know if you will trust him, but he could help you determine whether that phone is clean or not. Mr. Malviya, final word, sir.
No, I totally trust him.
But Rahul, on a
Please,
very
Amit, I'm
serious
getting there.
note, if the opposition believes that their phone has been hacked or they are being snooped on, they should go file a complaint, and since they do not trust the government or its agencies, they should probably approach the court and request for a court-monitored investigation, submit their phone this time, something they did not do at the time of Pegasus, and make sure that they are convinced that they are not as important as they would like to think, and the government of India has better things to do than to snoop on their phone. But if they want to use such stray incidents to make a hula baloo about things, well, you can continue to do so. People of this country have moved on. They have more important things to do. They are looking forward to what the future holds, and not to some petulant dynast rolling out every morning to hold a press conference or hold up the parliament on one pretext to the other, and nothing really comes out of it. And when it comes to it, they do not submit their phones for investigation. All I would say is that this country of ours, our democracy is far more robust.
Okay.
And that such flimsy arguments are not going to help you make any headway. So if you're really serious about your political careers and hope to ever cross over other than joining the BJP, you should perhaps work hard and focus on the more substantive issues.
So you're inviting her into the BJP?
Rahul, can I have 30
One
seconds?
second, one second. We just got some news there. He's inviting Priyanka to
I'm
join
just
the BJP.
suggesting that is the only way you could get relevant in your political careers.
Now there
by
are
the things as they stand today.
There are international tech laboratories like Citizen Lab which claim, Jiten, that they can remotely take access of a phone and check, running various diagnostic tools, whether that phone has been hacked into or not. Is that something that's reliable? Obviously, she's not going to give the phone to government, right? If they are supposed to check whether their phone has been hacked into, it's a very serious question.
So Apple has also suggested a private NGO called Access Now. I mean, you could go to many other private NGOs, but all of them would ultimately want access to your phone. Rahul, on a very serious note, please understand, Apple as an operating system does not give anyone, including an anti-malware or antivirus, access to system files. It is very, very, very difficult to detect a malware on an Apple iPhone. You could detect it on an Android. So the detection on Apple is also very difficult. Two, whatever limited scale you could do is block those IP addresses or block those indicators of compromise. Now, leaving that responsibility to victims or the prospective victims, I think, is not a fair job.
No, but how do you know
as a service
Apple hasn't done
provider,
it
has to
already?
inform.
Apple may have
No,
done this
Apple has
already.
to inform all the users that whatever indicators of compromises we knew, we have already blocked them on iOS platforms. I think this is the job they are shying away from. I mean, saying that if we reveal that these threat actors might evade, I mean, what are you trying to say? They should continuing. I mean, you have to stop them. Where is the question of evading?
Okay. So you've heard from top tech experts, you've heard from somebody who alleges a phone has been hacked into, or at least an attempt was made. You've heard from the government and you've heard from the Congress. I think we've had a very illuminating discussion. We aren't certain yet of whether there was an attempt, who engineered that attempt, and what is the current status, but we've been able to understand different dimensions of the story, and for that I thank my guests for a high quality conversation. Amit Malviya, in charge of the BJP's IT cell; Priyanka Chaturvedi, Member of Parliament, Deputy Leader of the Shiv Sena Uddhav Thackeray faction; Adil Singh Boparai from the Congress; and to our three tech experts, Jitin Jain, Apar Gupta and Kanish Gaur, for joining me on the NewsTrack. Thank you very much. We will track the story carefully. I'm slipping into a break. When we come back, Israel expands a ground offensive on day 4 of the new assault. Firing escalates at the border. Hamas counter-rocket fire continues. A latest ground report coming up from the war zone on the other side of a quick break. Immersive journey into the heart of news, politics and insights that truly matter. Join India Today now on WhatsApp with the #1 election team as we gear up for the upcoming assembly elections. Scan the QR code on your screen now.
Join India Today now on WhatsApp. Follow these steps. Open WhatsApp on your phone. Check for a new updates tab. Select Find Channel and type India Today. After finding the channel, tap the Follow button.
ये सभी जो उनके विरोधी है, उनके नेताओं के ऊपर मनी लॉन्ड्रिंग या और चार्जेस डालेंगे चुनाव से पहले और बंद कर देंगे। जिस मनीष सिसोदिया के खिलाफ कोई एविडेंस नहीं है, ये बात सुप्रीम कोर्ट में हम सुन रहे थे, वो अचानक 10 दिन में एविडेंस आ गया और मनीष सिसोदिया का बिल रिजेक्ट हो गया। चाहे आप हो, चाहे तृणमूल हो, चाहे शिवसेना हो, चाहे एनसीपी हो, आरजेडी हो, इंडिया गठबंधन के सभी प्रमुख लोगों को इस प्रकार से झूठे मुकदमे, झूठे फायर, फिर सीबीआई, फिर ईडी करके ये सबको पॉलिटिकली खत्म करने का काम ईडी को दिया है, सीबीआई को दिया है।
You're on board the NewsTrack. Israel continues to step up its ground offensive. Reports suggest that Israeli tanks have taken over a key road that connects North and South Gaza. But despite being under attack, the Hamas continues to fire rockets at Israel. Shiv Arur was at the Gaza border today. Here is his latest dispatch.
Israel continued with its offensive on day 4. Its forces attacked Hamas gunmen inside the Islamists' vast tunnel network beneath Gaza. The tunnels are a key objective for Israel as it expands ground operations inside Gaza to wipe out the ruling Hamas movement.
There have been 300 airstrikes since last night, and we're told that more airstrikes are going to happen. We're being buzzed. Urban conglomeration city is, of course, Gaza City, and that's where much of the bombing is taking place right now. Viable anti-tank and anti-armored vehicle positions continue to remain in that particular area, and that's one of the reasons why the momentum of the ground operation remains far lower than it usually is.
Gazans are using donkey-drawn carts to move shrouded bodies, casualties of Israel's ground invasion on the Strip. Doctors are now performing surgeries in the hallway after hospitals were damaged in the shelling. Israel, on the other hand, celebrated the release secured by its security forces of one Hamas captive, Private Ori Megiddish.
Last night, our forces freed Private Ori from Hamas captivity. Ori was kidnapped on the black morning of October 7th. Welcome home, Ori. I congratulate the Shin Bet and the Israeli army for this important achievement. An achievement that expresses our commitment to the release of all the abductees. The entire nation of Israel salutes the Shin Bet and Israeli army, and to the terrorists of Hamas and ISIS, I say, you are monsters. We will continue to pursue you. We will continue to hunt you down. We will cripple you until you fall on our feet.
Though Israel did not reveal details on the circumstances of Private Ori's release, it said she had since undergone medical checks and was doing well.
Over 220 hostages continue to be in captivity with the Hamas in this part of of this geography. The Gaza Strip is a large place. It's a big place to hide 220 hostages. Remember, the Hamas has been talking about how the airstrikes may have killed tens of these hostages already, but this may be psychological warfare. There is no proof of this yet. There's no evidence of this yet.
On the other hand, Hamas released a video on Monday that showed 3 hostages seized by the Islamist movement addressing an angry message to the Prime Minister Netanyahu. Prime Minister Netanyahu condemned the video and called it cruel psychological propaganda. In his statement, he said, "We are hugging the families. We will do everything to return all the kidnapped and missing people home." He also named hostages as Elena Trupanov, Daniel Aloni and Rimon Kirsht and said, "I hug you." Only one of the hostages addressed the camera throughout the clip. Gaza health authorities claim that more than 8,000 people, including 3,457 minors, have been killed in Israeli attacks since October 7th. UN officials say more than 1.4 million of Gaza's civilian population of about 2.3 million have been made homeless. The war that started following Hamas' gun rampage 3 weeks ago has taken the ugly look of human catastrophe. Despite repeated appeals from the international community, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu dismissed calls for a halt to fighting to ease the Palestinian enclave's humanitarian crisis.
This is where we wrap up the NewsTrack tonight. For your time and your trust, thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you at 8 p.m. tomorrow evening. Till then, from all of us here, goodbye, good night.
Weather forecast now. Delhi, maximum 33 and minimum 20 degrees. Mumbai, maximum 31 and minimum 26 degrees. Kolkata, maximum 32 and minimum 21 degrees. Bangalore, maximum 25 and minimum 19 degrees. Chennai, maximum 30 and minimum 26 degrees. Hyderabad, maximum 31 and minimum 20 degrees.
Kerala's public health. All political parties traveling from different parts.
Armed with facts,
Looking at political back.
she takes the news by its horns.
Do you think the future of these students are not hampered?
Fierce, bold, and direct, setting the tone for the biggest stories from every corner and every angle. Expect nothing but the unfiltered truth.
News first, niceties later. Watch me, Nabila Jamal, on India Today.
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com.
Co-presented by Star Health Insurance, the health insurance specialist.
Co-presented by
हर घर का हीरो ग्रीन प्लाई का E0.
Co-powered by the bold look of Kohler.
Good evening, hello and welcome. You're with the news today. This is your primetime destination, news, newsmakers, talking points. Our big talking point is coming from the opposition claiming it's under siege. Snoopgate 2.0, ED raids. Is the opposition's victimhood justified? That's going to be the big question that we will raise tonight on our talking point. But first, as always, it's time for the 9 headlines at 9. At least